That didn't happen. When Nicola came into my life, I felt that she was the one who could put my pieces together, and she did.
बड़े होकर क्या बनना चाहते हैं?
मैं एक astronaut और एक pilot.
When it's a question of women expressing their sexuality, it's always been a double-edged sword.
So these are desires. ये माया है, ये illusion है. ये माया है, ये illusion है. और सीता स्वयंवर की बात करती है. तो मैं एक मोमेंट पे राम हो जाऊंगी, एक मोमेंट पे सीता हो जाऊंगी.
बाद में यही हो गया कि चंद्रनाथ से शादी हो.
तो फिर कॉफी शॉप पे क्या हो?
गोरिया मारो ना नगरिया हो जियरा लहर दो जाए. लगन तो मुझसे लगा बैठे, जो होगा देखा जाएगा.
यानी समाज के सब क्षेत्रों में कुछ ना कुछ गिरावट हो रही है. अकेला पत्रकार अच्छा कैसे रह सकता है?
कई बार कपल्स को खाली थोड़ा सेपरेशन की जरूरत होती है थोड़े समय के लिए. So everything doesn't need to be like this or that.
उसने बात चाय से शुरू की और फिर हमने कभी खत्म ना होने दी. चाय की चुस्कियों के साथ जुड़ी हैं आज की अनोखी मेहमान और उनकी अनोखी दास्तान. चाय के बागानों से आई इस स्फूर्ति की लहर का आनंद उठाइए मेरे साथ मेरे YouTube चैनल मिडनाइट लाटे पर. Hi guys, this is Maya, a poet, writer, motivational speaker, and a video creator. Your host for the day, with another gem that I have discovered. She is, well, fasten your seatbelts because the list is really very long. She is a geologist, researcher, a seasoned academician, singer, songwriter, vocal supervisor, and vocalist for Disney, Netflix, Amazon, Apple TV projects, voiceover artist, and the lead singer for Melange, a Mumbai-based blues band. Welcome Sunayana Sarkar to our show and a very good evening.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me here, Maya. Thank you so much.
Sunayana, your status attracted me like magnet to iron shillings. Really, I mean, being the kind of insanely sane and sanely insane person that I too happen to be, it immediately clicked with me. So,
well, that's something that my son had coined. In fact,
okay.
He's the one who told me that, you know, you're sanely insane or you're insanely sane. That's what he had told me. So
I love the coinage and I could totally relate with that. And this is what actually drew me to your status. So shall we begin from the beginning?
Absolutely, absolutely.
First of all, tell me about your childhood that made you who you are, a nature lover, fiercely independent, ultra-sensitive person, perfectly in sync with the universe.
I don't know if I'm really all of that you just said out, but well, let me give you a sort of a lowdown about where I kind of come from, where I'm coming from, sort of. I grew up in the tea gardens where my father was a researcher. He still is a researcher. In fact, he's a person who kind of taught me that, you know, work is something that you can continue to do as long as you can. So I grew up in the tea gardens. And as you know, tea garden life sounds very, very romantic, sounds extremely, you know, it's like 7-star luxury. But the fact is that you are literally cut off from the world. In fact, when this lockdown started, in the beginning, it didn't really affect me at all, because this is exactly what my life was when I was a child. because we were never allowed to go out of the house, say after sundown, because there were too many wild animals outside. Or the most that you would meet somebody would be at a weekend, or maybe at every 15 days. If you wanted to buy something, you would have to plan 1 year in advance, because that's when you go for your holiday. Yeah, exactly. So we would go to Kolkata from Assam and Darjeeling, and that's when we would actually find time to buy things that we really needed. And so we always thought about, okay, this we will do day after, and this we will do 3 days later. So life was kind of slow, if I may say so, but somehow for me it wasn't, because there was so much in it. Because you're right there in the lap of luxury. You walk out into the garden and you see squirrels around you. You see wild animals when you're driving past some places. So that was something which kind of probably shaped me as the person I am. I'm extremely happy and very, very comfortable when I'm in nature. So for me, in fact, to get used to a city like Mumbai was kind of difficult, because here you have so many people, so much of traffic. I mean, I learned how to drive on a road where the nearest, the next car would be around, say, 10 minutes away. So, every 10 minutes you're passing a car. That's the kind of traffic that I would kind of have to navigate through. And then bang in the middle of Bombay, and you really don't know what hit you. So it has been quite a metamorphosis, I might say. But what nature does to you, I think, is that it calms you and it grounds you. And even when you are in a room full of people, in a street full of cars, you can still think of something which is absolutely blissful, and continue to remain in that kind of state of calm. So I think my childhood really helped me to calm down as a person. Though a lot of my friends and my entire family think that I'm a hot-headed person. I really don't know whether I am. I might be. So, and more importantly, because we were always out there, I was surrounded. I grew up. I was born when my father was in Darjeeling, so all I got to see was mountains around me. The first 5 years, I only got to see mountains. I only got to walk on mountains. So I kind of have this extreme bond and affinity with mountains, and that's probably why I chose to study a subject like geology, which it's kind of a niche subject. Not many people take it up, or rather, not many people take it up because they want to take it up. I took it up because I wanted to take it up. That's for sure. And because we were growing up in the back of beyond, so we had to entertain ourselves, because we did not have television. All we had was a whole lot of LPs, records, vinyls, and ourselves to entertain ourselves with. My elder sister is also a singer. She plays the guitar, so I kind of learned a lot from her. And she would every evening we would just sit down and start singing, and that kind of led me to take it up more seriously later on in life.
That's wonderful. And this
And
is how
it kept me with a cup of tea for the rest of my life, I think. Cheers.
cheers.
Yes,
And this is what has given you this kind of a capacity to express yourself so purely. And you wrote somewhere that you are yet to be a writer, but I would say you are a born writer. I have just taken a few excerpts from your profile, which I would like to have the audience read out too. Like, to not meet a single human being on a 9-kilometer track is therapy. To walk quietly, deduce the tectonic history of the place and record structural data, while pine needles rustle on leaves above, is sheer unmatched psychiatric counseling. So isn't it wonderful? You are a born writer. The way you have expressed yourself in proximity with nature, in the lap of nature, and how it developed you as a person inside out. It's a blissful life.
You're right, because nature is the only thing which is true. I think that's the only thing which is real. And everything is, if I may use the word moh maya, with no offense meant, but what I'm trying to say is that nature is the only thing which is so real, because when you're in nature, it hits you. I think it literally hits me. I sometimes I always escape with my students for a field trip at least once a year, and that kind of gives me this release from all the tension that piles on in a city life.
That moh maya inflicts on you.
No, but there is something very interesting about moh maya as well, I think. Without it, life would become very boring, if I may use the word. You need to have things which attract you, things which make you want to do things, or you require triggers. I think Mumbai has been one of the biggest triggers for me in life, whether it is for my work as a geologist, or whether it is for my work as a singer or a musician. I mean, I don't play any instrument really, but as a singer and somebody who's with music. So I think Mumbai has been a huge trigger. I mean, I remember that when I first came here and I got very used to traveling in the big BEST buses, and I would take one all the way from 7 bungalows, and I would travel all the way to Powai, to IIT, when I was doing my PhD there. And that entire journey was so beautiful, because it took you through a lot of people and a lot of traffic jams. The JVLR road had not come up at that point of time, so it was a narrow road where if one particular car kind of broke down, you're stuck there for the rest of the next 7 hours or so to speak. So it was like this. It was almost like I was watching a film go by, and every day it was a different film. So I think Mumbai as a trigger has also been very, very effective. It made me get up every morning and do something different, want to do just something different.
Actually, when
maybe
you
if
are
I
on
was
that,
maybe if I was just in the lap of nature, I would not have managed to do, or I would not have managed to manage my time more effectively the way I managed to do it right now. I'm still not a pro at it, but I'm still far better than what I was before.
once nature around you has taught you how to be in love with yourself, how to speculate over things, and how to just get down off that roller coaster of life for a while and see things objectively, then this is a movie going on, this is cinema going on all the time in your mind, and you can objectively judge things, see things, and find out that beauty.
That's right. That's very true. Extremely. Well, I've lost you, Maya. You're frozen in frame, and I don't know what's gone wrong. What am I supposed to do now? Okay, I don't seem to be able to communicate with Maya at this moment, but I think she's coming back on. The screen has gone black, which means that yes, and she's back. Hi.
We
I
are
was just
back.
talking
Hi.
gibberish just to keep everyone, thinking that okay.
Cheers again.
Cheers.
Sunayana, you said almost every member in your family sang.
That's true.
Tell me something about that.
In my family, almost I would say everyone sings. Everybody sings. But nobody is into it professionally. My mother, she was very interested in singing tumris. Even now she sings. My father has never sung in public. but he can sing in tune and in tempo. My sister and I, we grew up in boarding schools because we had no other way out. And when you're in a boarding school, you know, you kind of tend to get pushed into the choir, and you tend to get, you know, pulled out when there is an inter-school festival and stuff like that. So with my sister and I, we used to be more into singing. We used to sing a lot in the house. The rest of my family, with my aunts, my cousins, everybody is into singing. One of my cousins, she's a professional dancer, but everybody sings, that's for sure. So I think it is just a tryst with DNA, which helped me continue to sing in tune, because that's, I think, a huge gift. It's a blessing, because so many people find it very difficult to sing in tune, and to be able to sing in tune and not do it without much of an effort, I think is a huge blessing, which I may have taken for granted for many years, because I'm not trained. I have never had the opportunity to have any kind of training, whether it is in, you know, Indian classical music or even in the Western genres. But the ear is a wonderful teacher. You know, whatever you hear, you end up learning. So because we were so isolated as children, so we used to listen to a lot of music. So we would be listening to like at least 6 to 7 hours of music on an everyday basis. Even when I'm sitting and I mean, my mother still cannot get over the fact that, you know, I used to sit and do mathematics problems and have like rock music blasting behind me. She still thinks that I was kind of mad, but that was something which kind of, you know, helped me do all those things well. And so I think that amount of listening to music, ultimately you listen and you learn, because, you know, I think for all my friends, for all the youngsters who are getting into music in a big way, I work with a lot of youngsters in my sphere of work. I would you know, suggest this, that, you know, listen to as much of music as you can, and when you listen to something, listen to it with a very, very critical ear, because it helps you learn a lot. I mean, I love to sing the blues. I love to sing, even in Bangla, I love to sing folk. But all of that I have actually learned by listening to the music. And I think hearing is a fantastic, what should I say? It's a sensory capacity that we very often do not use to our fullest.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I totally get your point. Like,
you know, sometimes I remember when I was you know, doing my studies, and I would get tired of sitting and reading through stuff. I would make my mother just read out, you know, stuff from my textbooks, so that, and because when you're listening to it, it remains with you. It has a resonance with you, and that kind of remains in your memory a lot more. So I think listening is a huge way of learning something, of learning music. And so I probably listen. I belong to the listening gharana.
just like you become a writer by reading a lot. So the more you read, the more you absorb, the more you assimilate within yourself, and you get to know certain ways how to express yourself in the most positive way and the most beautiful way. So this is how it goes कि गाने के लिए गला बहुत अच्छा होना ही जरूरी नहीं है, कान भी बहुत अच्छे होने जरूरी है.
Exactly.
And apart from the music that you listen to, there might have been the murmurs of the streams and springs and those chirrups of the birds and everything that might have added to the beauty of this listening mechanism, right?
That's right. You know, I was doing a lot of field work in Rajasthan.
Okay.
During my master's years, during my PhD years, a lot of field work. I mean, that's like intensive field work. Say 25 days, at least, 10 hours in a day. On 25 days at a go. I did almost 9 months of field work in an area around Abu Road. And those areas were all reserve forests. So there were no people around. And a reserve forest in Rajasthan doesn't mean forest. It means exposed rock, because you have so much of rocks exposed, and you may even meet a bear or two. I didn't meet one. But what I realized, and I'll just share this with you, that as a geologist, there are lots of different rocks that you see there. And in Abu Road, there were about 6 types of rocks, which were there, which were exposed out there. And I realized that each one of them, if you kind of hit 2 pieces together, they made a different note. Or if you had a rock from a different area, it would sound different. And then I came upon this, there was a little village in the middle there. This is in Abu Road, where there were these people who would be using these pieces of rocks to create music with their normal, their folk music. And it was so fascinating. I mean, I'm talking about 2000, 2001 to around 2003. Now, that was the time when we did not have these, these smartphones. Otherwise, I'm sure I would have made some videos and brought them back. But I did not manage to do that. But it was so beautiful because they would tell me that, this is the sounds that we've taken from nature, and this is how we've kind of created, we've kind of imbibed it into our folk music. They would use the water in the stream as a percussion instrument, and sing along with that, which was so fascinating for me. I mean, I wish I had time, and I wish I had I had the space to do do a project with something like that. Maybe someday I'll do. Maybe.
I invite you to Rajasthan. I belong to Rajasthan, and I would love to accompany you to wherever you go for your studies and research. And we'll make the best use of our smartphones now this time.
Yes. That's lovely. Which part of Rajasthan are you from?
Alwar. It's quite close to Jaipur.
Okay. I worked a lot in Ajmer as well, and Udaipur as well.
Okay.
So these places like Nathwada. How do you pronounce it? I don't know. So fascinating. Rajasthan geology is fascinating because, I mean, just to imagine that the entire Aravallis at one point of time was attached to the Eastern African Rift Valley system, and that it broke away from there and it moved all this way and then created the Himalayas. I mean, just imagine that. I mean, that I used to sit there in the field and look at the rocks and imagine that, oh my God, I'm walking on rocks which were, close to Kenya at one point of time. So Rajasthan is very special, geologically speaking. For every geologist, I think Rajasthan is a textbook. Seriously.
So we do have a reason to meet.
Yes.
Tell me about your education.
My education, I am a geologist. I have studied geology. Like I told you, we were in the tea garden, so we were all packed off to boarding school. I think boarding school has also made a lot of me of what I am today, because it's a different kind of ball game. You spend 9 months with a bunch of girls. You spend more time with them than you spend with your entire family. So it's a different kind. I mean, there are my friends from the boarding. I may not have met them for the past 30 years, but we're so close to each other because you spend so much of time with them. They become family. So we were all off to the boarding school. So I studied for a while in Jorhat, in Assam, in Carmel School, and then I moved to La Martiniere, which is in Calcutta, and then from there I wanted to study geology. So I took it up in my bachelor's and my master's degrees, and then I came down to Bombay in the year 1998, and I took a 1.5 year gap. And then in 2000, I started with my PhD, which was in IIT Bombay. And thereafter, I'm teaching. That's it. But I think education is something which never stops. For me, every class that I conduct is a class that I'm attending myself, because
Wonderful.
in trying to explain to my students, I kind of, in psychology you have something called the aha experience, where you're working with something and there is something which is very very clear for you to see, and you don't see it, and then suddenly it kind of strikes you and you say, aha, this is what I was kind of lacking to understand. So I kind of have aha experiences every time I teach, because when I'm teaching, I suddenly realize that, oh my God, there is a connection between these two concepts. And I kind of quickly go back and, read it up and come back to the students the next day and tell them about it. So, it's an ongoing process. And I think the day you decide that you know something, that's when your education stops, or
True.
it becomes
Very true.
non-existent.
Very true.
So the moment, till the time you believe that, I don't know much and there is so much more to know, you're studying. I mean, look at geology. It is a young science of the oldest history, because the earth is almost more than 4.8 billion years old. So can you imagine the kind of history that it has? And yet we know hardly anything about it. We probably know not more than 60% of what exactly the earth is all about. And every year people are doing research, and things are getting revamped. For instance, we had a very different understanding of the earth before 1960s, and then in 1960 there was this thing which was called the plate tectonic theory, and I'm sure all our school students nowadays will know what the plate tectonic theory is all about. And that kind of came into the forefront, and it was kind of proved, and then every geologist around the world had an aha experience. It was like, oh my God, this is exactly what I was trying to explain, and this explains it all. So you never know, tomorrow somebody might come up with something which might just change our understanding of the earth altogether. So I believe that earth sciences is like 100% philosophy based on 200% science. It's something like that.
Amazing.
So it's like it's I mean, I believe that I am doing a program, and I'm doing like I'm studying for a degree that spans my lifetime. That's what I believe. It spans my lifetime for sure. I mean, I'm sure till the day when I can understand anything, I will understand something new. Whether it is music, whether it is rocks, whether it is food. I'm a foodie, you can see that. I love cooking. I'm sure you can understand that.
I have seen many
desperately
of
try, but yes.
I just came across many of the posts of your admirers who loved your cooking, and you sent them certain things during this lockdown period, and they relished it like anything, and they thanked you on social media. So this much love for cooking is there. I could see that.
No, cooking is a therapy for me. It is therapy. If you like cooking, then it becomes, when I was a kid, we used to be blessed because we used to have very good, trained bawarchis, they were called, in our tea garden bungalows, and they really knew a lot of recipes, and they were very good. I mean, they were. I don't think they were any less than any of the executive chefs that we have today in any 5-star hotels, but they would never share recipes, especially with the lady of the house. So my mother would never ever get to understand any kind of recipe that they have used for any kind of a dish. But I was a child and I used to hang around in the kitchen, so I kind of managed to remember a lot of recipes which they kind of, without understanding, probably gave them away to me. So yes, I have always found cooking to be therapeutic. And I love cooking for friends.
Yeah. And coming back to being a teacher who keeps learning all the time, during our phone conversation, you somewhere mentioned that both singing and teaching are performing arts. And I really love that statement. Could you please explain that a little?
Well, it is performing art because, first and foremost, when you're teaching, you have a class full of people around in front of you. when you're singing, you have an audience in front of you. And both of them are extremely judgmental, perhaps without meaning to be, but they will be very judgmental. Even if I am sitting in an audience and listening to somebody sing, I am going to be judgmental. Has she sung in tune? Has she sung in tempo? Has she done a good job with her expression? Has she been in pitch? All of that keeps kind of moving through my head. So I'm sure it happens to the people who are in the audience and to my students who are sitting in the class. And if I am not being able to get through them, or if I am not being able to make them interested enough, they're going to fall off to sleep. Or if it's an audience who's listening to me singing, they're going to start talking to their friends. So in a way, both of them are performing arts. So every time I'm standing in front of a classroom, right now, for a year now, we've been doing our online classes, which is even more of a strain because in online classes, I can't even see the students. So it is that much more difficult to kind of keep them, interested, to kind of keep them in class, or kind of keep them awake in class, because most people would just log in and fall off to sleep. Which is, the ongoing kind of online studies that everybody is doing. But I think, yes, they are both performing sciences because performing arts, because when you finish a class, I feel the same rush when I finish a gig with my band on stage. It's the same rush. It's like, okay, I'm done with it. Nobody's judged me, or nobody's asked me too many questions that I don't know the answers to. Those are kind of things every teacher has nightmares about, because you are always a student. You remain a student, however much you decide that, I have full grasp of the subject, but you always remain a student. And it may so happen that the student, and today, everybody has such amazing access to a lot of information. Good or bad, that's up to them to kind of filter out. But there is so much of information out there for them to grab onto, and so therefore it is essential that you keep yourself on your toes. You keep yourself updated, abreast with whatever's happening around the world, because you never know, some student will come up with a question that you might not know the answer to, and you can't always not know the answer, so
you can't afford to do that.
You can't afford to do that. So yes, it's the same rush. It's like being high. It's like being. It's dope for me. Seriously speaking.
Beautiful. So what's your poison, basically? What's your kick? Is it tea that you are sipping right now? Is it music?
Yes, it is tea. This is the kind of tea I drink in a day. Pots of it. Yes, it is tea. My father always kind of told us, because he's a tea researcher, so he had no other way out. But he always kind of told us that, have tea without the milk, without the sugar, because that's the only way that you'll actually understand what tea is all about. So we grew up, having what we call as tea liquor. So when I first came to Bombay and I went to somebody's house and I said, I want to have tea liquor, they were like, liquor, tea? I mean, hello, we're talking about tea, chai hai. Not theek hai, but like chai, I mean, we used to call it tea liquor, because you're kind of brewing it and, taking out the extract and you're having it. So tea is a huge, it's my poison. Yes, it's my poison.
And that's the word I use
throughout the day. Yes. Apart from that, kicks, I have so many. Trekking is a kick. I may look that I cannot move anti-gravity, but I can. Believe you me, I can. My students will vouch for it. So, so I love to walk in the mountains, especially. Kick for me is rocks. If I look at rocks, the history kind of flashes in front of me, and there's so much that you can interpret. You take a small piece of rock and you can interpret an A4 page out of it. It's that much of history put into a small little tiny piece of a pebble. Trees is a huge kick. When I was a child, I hardly had people my age to play with, because the nearest family would be, say, 40 kilometers away. So it was not possible for me to go there on an everyday basis. So I would play with trees. Like, you know, I used to pretend that I'm a teacher and I'm teaching, and all my students are all trees. So all the trees had names, and all the trees. So, you know, I kind of grew very close to trees. Even today, when I'm, you know, there's this Japanese concept of forest bathing, which is considered to be like a very, very amazing sense of meditation. If you're just walking through the forest quietly, not talking at all, even if you're walking with somebody else, you're not talking to that person, and you are just imbibing every bit of the forest, you know, from the sounds of the forest to you know, if you just stand quietly underneath a tree in a forest, you'll be amazed with the kind of noises that you hear. You know, with from a young leaf to a dry leaf to the leaves underneath your feet, it's amazing. And so I was used to it all my life. When I was a small child, it was pine trees. When we came down to Assam, after that, it was different other kind of trees. So trees are a big, huge kick. I love cooking. It's a huge kick. I love teaching. It's a huge kick. I love singing. I love performing live. It's a huge kick. I always wanted to be Janis Joplin. Oh my God, that woman, she's amazing. But no, I did not manage to wear the pair of jeans the way she did. I also did not manage to learn how to ride the Harley Davidson. I also did not manage to have her kind of, you know, windpipes or sing the way she can. But yeah, I did get myself a tattoo, and that's probably the only thing that I, you know, managed to do yet till now. But yes, I'll get there. Don't worry. So it's a huge kick to be able to sing on stage. It's you know, when I first started singing with my band, which was very late. I mean, I did not sing with my band earlier. We kind of started performing not before 2015. As early as like, you know, just about yesterday. But I must say a little bit about my band. They are first and foremost an amazing set of gentlemen who are, I think I'm the only person who's really not known in that band, because everybody else in that band, they have created a niche for themselves. They are fantastic gentlemen. There is Nilanjan Chaumadar, who plays the guitar and who also writes for us. There's Ambar Das, he's a conglomerate. He's a singer, songwriter, drummer, guitarist, composer. He writes music. I don't know what he doesn't do. He does everything when it comes to music. There is Manas Chaudhary, who plays the bass, who's a fantastic bassist. And now all of these, there's Anwar Hussain Munu, who plays the keys for us, who's a fantastic pianist. Now all of these gentlemen, they've already found a place for themselves. They play with the best of singers. They play with the best of performers. And I think I'm honored that they also come down and play with me. So, you know, usually when you're in a band, it's usually like, you know, the lead singer accompanied by so and so, so and so, so and so. But in my case, it's the band who's accompanied by my singing. I mean, I'm kind of the accompaniment for them. They're that good. And I'm blessed because I never imagined that I would get an opportunity to do this. Because, you know, with your teaching, with all of that, there is a lot of time which goes into it, and there is no time to sit and actually work with a band. But these guys managed to do that with me. So it's amazing.
That's amazing.
So that's another kick. Teaching, like I told you, is a kick. I like talking. I like being with friends. I would almost call myself gregarious, but and that kind of gives me a lot of kick. I love cooking for friends. That's a huge kick, yes. And I like to. Another thing that gives me a kick is introspection. I think a lot of us have so many qualities that we don't introspect into, and we don't really discover those bits, you know, in our lifetimes. we kind of become complacent, and we get ourselves into a comfort zone. But there is so much that you can do. There's so much that you can do that, and I like challenges. Challenges are a big, huge thing. Yes.
So
That's
sweet
true.
of you. Has language ever been a bar with you while performing on the stage in various languages that you have been experimenting on, working with?
Okay. English, I can get by with. Hindi, I speak like a Bengali. I mean, people will understand what I'm trying to say, but my grammar is all over the place. And Bengali is my language. I grew up in Assam, so I can speak Assamese. I could speak a little bit of Nepali, but I don't remember much of it anymore. But apart from this, I have also sung in other languages, especially when you are working with advertisement jingles. You end up singing in all the 9 languages that normally advertisement jingles get dubbed into. And I have noticed this. I mean, I'm sure you've noticed it too. There are so many Bengali singers, even in Bollywood for that matter, lots of Bengali singers who have atrocious accents when they talk. They sound really bad. Even to my ears now, after living in Mumbai for 23 years, even now they sound bad to my ears. But when they sing perfectly. So I guess singing is more about syllabic understanding of the words, where you're not really going into the language, but you're kind of listening to all the note, they're like notes. So you end up singing them properly. So I have never had a problem with that. And of course, when you are doing work, that kind of work, you always have a language supervisor. But I have had issues like, for instance, in Malayalam, they have so many ners, And I remember this gentleman desperately trying to explain to me that, Sunayana, ye na nahi hai, wo na hai. I mean, to my ear, it sounded the same. And I was like, I was in a mess, but managed to do it at the end. But it's that fine tuning. Maybe I have never heard those nerves before in my life, because Bengali, once again, we kind of do away with a lot of syllables. Like, Aishwarya becomes Oishojjo, and stuff like that. So we kind of tend to polish off a lot of things from language. But yes, when it comes to expression, I have felt that when you cannot express yourself in a language, when you're in a particular place where the person does not understand you, the best thing is to do is sing. They will understand you. And very often I have noticed that I have not been able to explain to them. And I've been in a very, very remote Rajasthan village where none of them even understand Hindi. Now I was in a mess because I was not being able to explain to them what I wanted. So I just spoke to them in Bangla, and I kind of just, acted out what I was trying to explain, and they understood. So I guess if you want to express something from your heart,
Language is not a bar.
You can get there at least 20%, if not 100.
Cool. Agreed. What made you keep your sanity intact despite all odds?
Sanity is an overrated thing, in my opinion. It's very overrated. Look at an animal. How often have you seen an animal lose its sanity? Very, 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 not very often. But when it comes to humans, we kind of take our psychology a little too seriously, I think. But I feel that when it comes to as long as you are in touch with yourself, as long as you know what you want, as long as you know what you are looking at, and as long as you are confident in what you really want. I have had adverse situations in my life. Everybody does. Every single human being has adverse situations, and I'm sure everybody is able to tackle them. And sometimes I think if you are left to tackle it on your own, you do a much better job than like 50 people coming and telling you, you should do this and you should do that. So I kind of keep myself away from that kind of judgmental advice. I won't say I'm prudent. I have never been prudent in many of my actions, but I like to take challenges and I like to kind of, go with the flow, sort of. Dekha jayega, baad mein dekha jayega, kya hota hai. That kind of probably I'm kind of a gambler with time, with life. You can call me a gambler because that's what I do. I don't weigh the pros and cons too much before I jump into a situation, and that probably has given me a sense of peace, because it's like, when you get to do your own thing, you anyway have a sense of peace. So I'm kind of I don't know. I don't have a word for myself. My parents think I'm this rebel without a cause, and many of my friends would also probably adhere to the same thought process, that I'm a rebel without a cause. But yeah, rebellion sometimes is nice, as long as you're not hurting anybody. It's true.
Sunayana, we usually don't realize how much effort goes into the dubbed content. But believe me, a word with you on the phone was an eye-opener to me. Could you explain how is this translation work for Disney, Netflix, and Amazon different? And what are the challenges involved here?
Well, you see, I think it was 1992 or 93 when this entire new gamut of content was thrown at us, because before that we were all very, very comfortable with Doordarshan and that's all, or a movie in a theater. And then all of a sudden we had all these channels beaming onto our television sets with different kind of programming, all kinds of programs that you could choose, that you hitherto only knew existed outside India. And all of a sudden it came to India. But then we as a country, we have a huge percentage of population who would not be able to sometimes be very comfortable with the English content, because there was a lot of English content which was being shown here, because suddenly producing so much of content was not possible in India, and we were more of a Bollywood content making country. So then they this entire thing of dubbing content into Hindi came about. It started with Hindi, I guess, I'm not too sure, but it started around that time. And then suddenly you had this option of, watching it in Hindi. And then suddenly you had all these cartoons speaking to you in Hindi, singing to you in Hindi. And I was still in Calcutta at that point of time. And then I was fascinated by that entire process. So when I came here, I was very lucky that I met Antara Chaudhary, who's the late Salil Chaudhary is, the maestro. He's a fantastic music composer of Bollywood. His daughter, I met her at a party, and you know how Bengalis are. You get 3 Bengalis together, they will start singing. So I started singing, and she noticed, and I sang something in English, and she turned around and she said that, I'm holding auditions tomorrow, and if you're free, come over. Wow. So I went over and I sat for that audition, and I met some of the most brilliant singers that Mumbai has to offer. I would name some of the singers in a few minutes from now. And we started working on, that was my first Disney project, which was Hercules, which had some 56 songs and almost 26 episodes. And it was such an eye-opener for me. And for that, then slowly I realized this huge process which goes behind it, because Antara, I call her Antara Di, Antara Di kind of literally took me by the hand and explained to me how it's all done. And it was such a wonderful revelation, because I realized that there is a parallel industry that most people don't know of. Today we are getting our credits, people know about it, people hear about the huge industry of dubbing artists who are working. I think they have been very busy right through the lockdown, because during the lockdown, everybody was watching dub content on, say, Netflix, on all of these channels. And you have noticed, I'm sure you've noticed, that a new content was constantly being created and being put up for people to watch, because people had nothing else to do at home. And so that means that all these people have worked overtime. They have literally overnight set up studios in their homes, because they were not allowed to go to the studios, set up studios in their homes, and they've created, I think they're a fantastic brigade. You know, the dubbing world is a fantastic brigade that you can learn so much from. Here you are sitting in a studio, you're looking at a visual that somebody else has spoken, and then suddenly, oh my God, just a minute, just give me 2 seconds, I need to put my phone on charger, just a minute. I'm so sorry. You have to bear with me.
No problem.
Yeah. And we're back. So, you know, they started, you know, so you're sitting and you're trying to emulate that other person's emotions. And you're doing it in another language. If you're doing it in the same language, it's a little easier, I think, because you're getting to see the, you know, the lip movements, and you know the kind of language, the way it is spoken. And then suddenly you're doing it in a different language. So it's for me, singing dubbed content is easy for me, because singing is a very structured, you know, exercise, because you're kind of, you have the tal, and you have every beat is counted, so you'll be able to do it. You know exactly when to come in. But when you're dubbing for dialogues, I used to get my heart used to race, because I knew that if I can't catch it at that point, then again it'll have to be, you know, it'll have to be another take. So I think it's a fantastic ability that so many people have, which I have not been able to master yet. I can only sing for dubbed content with conviction. But when it comes to dubbing, I have done quite a bit of dubbing. But when it comes to dubbing, I'm still a novice. But it's a beautiful way of working. So I kind of started with Antara, like I told you, and I started moving into you know, dubbed singing for Disney. And at that point of time, I also got introduced. My husband knew somebody who was into the advertisement world, so he kind of you know, suggested that I go and speak to somebody, who, Mr. Banmali. He was this voice bank, or so to say, and he has probably put so many voice over artists, you know, onto a pedestal, onto a stage. Not a pedestal, I meant a stage, and where they have kind of discovered themselves. And I met him, and he was quite an elderly gentleman, and he made me sit down and he recorded my voice. And the very next day he said, go do this voiceover. It's in Bengali and you have to do it. I had the shivers, because I had never really done that kind of work. This advertisement work is very different. You have the entire, you know, the clients sitting there, and everybody has a different opinion. The person who's directing it has a different opinion, and you know, that entire atmosphere is very, very, you know, it kind of, it scares you. It scares the daylights out. But I went there and I realized that not only could I have done it in Bangla, but I could have also done it in Assamese. And that became my passport, actually. A lot of people at that point of time did not know that I was a Bengali, because they would always see me doing voiceovers for Assamese ads. So that kind of a thing, it started, and then it went on to jingles, and when you're doing jingles, you're doing it in different languages, and it's such a kick. You're doing the same jingle, it's the same bit, but it's a different language, and to be able to express it, you have to literally sit with the person and figure out how, because even when I'm saying I would like to go there, but if I'm saying it in another language, it might just be a little different. So you have to really go through the nitty-gritties of language without understanding that language, and it's a tough job, believe you me. I don't know how people do it, but it's always been a fascinating thing for me. Now, coming back to dubbed content, I have been working for the past almost 22 years with a production house, with several production houses, in fact, but one of them more consistently, and that is Sound and Vision India, which was started by Leela Ghosh, a fantastic, lovely lady who was all heart, not just heart. She was all passion for music and for work. And her daughter has carried on the legacy, and she has taken it to a different level altogether. And so we work out there on a lot of projects. And the whole process of doing this kind of dubbed work is, when you have a project, say for instance, let me talk about it from the singing point of view. I have a project, maybe I have a film, and there are 6 songs, and there are, say, 8 characters who are singing them. So first I have to go through those songs. Most of the studios who are the original content maker, they have a creative note for you, which they will share with you, where you understand exactly what their process was when they were creating it. And now we have to kind of, domesticate it. So you kind of regionalize it, and you're trying to interpret the same thing in a regional language, and that's a huge thing. Now, you are an author, you're a lyricist, you write poetry. You will understand this, that when you are trying to write a song which is to a set meter, which is to movement, and which is to a set thought process, and you're doing it in another language, how difficult can that be? And I think there are some people who've kind of aced it. I would like to mention a few. Mayur Puri, who is quite a name in the Bollywood industry, but he does a fantastic job of this. We have sat together and we've done the songs for Lion King, we've done the songs for Jungle Book, and he's gone through every little word. And if you watch Jungle Book, or if you watch Lion King in Hindi, you never believe that this is an original English content, because that's the kind of dedication that these studios like Sound and Vision, which is owned by Mona Shetty right now, who's Leelaji's daughter, who, the kind of time and the energy that they put in to get this content streamlined. We have workshops where we sit for days together and we discuss as to how it can be changed. What are the words which can be used? Maybe which are some very specific words which have been used in English, which are kind of recurring in the entire project. What are the kind of words that we're going to use in Hindi? Now we have to keep in mind that most of the content is being watched by kids, especially if it is, Disney content. So you can't use certain words. You have to be very careful with that. You have to, if it's an American joke which has been cracked. Now, when you can't just do a word-to-word translation. So you have to kind of localize it. You have to make it very different, and make it believable to the Indian audience. Mm-hmm. It's a huge job. It's a huge job, mind you. I think if you take, say, 5 days to complete the actual dubbing of the content, you take 10 days to actually sit and do the homework for it. That's the kind of work we have to put in. Now, for songs, what we do is, for every character who has to sing a song, I have to look for voice samples, or I have to look for singers who match the original in terms of voice texture, in terms of voice range, in terms of pitch, everything, all of it. Timbre, everything, as close as possible. And then, not one, but we have to find out 3 of such singers for every character. And then you make them record a particular, an audition clip. And once you do that, you send it to the original studio who has created the content, and they take a call as to who's the best suited. And I think these people have been working with this kind of content for so long. Like Disney, for instance, dubs material, their content into almost 45 to 50 languages worldwide. So they're doing this on an everyday basis with different languages. And that's when I realized, that's exactly when I realized that singing is syllabic. Because, you're listening to just sound. And then when they decide that, okay, this person is best suited for the voice, then we go ahead with the actual recording. Now we have to stick to the complete, the notation, the staff notation, which comes to us as a lead sheet. You cannot move even one semitone, idhar udhar. You have to replicate the entire thing and yet sound as if you're singing in Hindi. It's a tough job, mind you. And I have some of the most brilliant singers who I have had the opportunity and I'm very lucky to have been able to work with them. I would mention Suzanne de Mello, who's had quite a few of her hits in Bollywood. She is a singer, songwriter herself. She has her own album songs. There is Shazneen Aritna, who's a fantastic singer. Now, all of these people have their own bands, they have their own singing, but when it comes to this kind of dub singing, they all come together because it's a challenge for them. Every time it's a challenge to do a good job. And it's such a kick. All of us do it because of the kick. There is Rahul Pandey, who's a fantastic singer. There's Abhishek Nailwal. There's Chandre, who's a ghazal singer, but she manages to do this kind of work. I don't know how she manages to do, but she does it. There is, and then there are some of the singers who I have literally worked with since they were kids. Like, for instance, I would like to mention Arman Malik, who's a fantastic singer who's doing so well in his career. But not many know that maybe he has sung about 1,000 Disney songs to his credit when he was a kid. I still remember he would come with all his, his homework books. And between his recordings, he would sit and do his homework, and then he would come back and do it. And he was so good with it. And I had such fun working with these kids. There's another very, very good singer, Aparna Bhagwat, who, if you listen to most of the Disney songs, I think she's probably she's the Disney princess in almost every project, because she's got such a brilliant voice. She's so good at her work, and also she can modulate. I have had her sing for 5 characters in a single song, and she has sounded different.
Oh my God.
That's the kind of talent that you have in this industry that so many people don't know about. There's such brilliant singers. There's Asif, who's Asif Ali Beg, who's a celebrated actor. He's an on-screen actor. He's a on-stage actor, but he's a fantastic singer. Fantastic singer. And all of these singers, what I feel is that people who do this kind of singing, they're all good actors. Because at the end of the day, most of the songs that we work with, they are like, they kind of take the story forward. So you have to be able to act to take the story forward. So this is how we do it. We spend a lot of time over each song. Not as much as time as they do it in the original studio, maybe because we have a lot of time stipulations, but I think we do a good job. Yes. Mona's husband, Mohit, came up with this. He coined this word and he said, "You guys belong to the Disney Gharana." It's a different Gharana altogether.
That's a beautiful coinage again.
So he kind of came up with that brilliant coinage. I think I have stuck to it all my life.
And what was that jingle that gave you creeps for the first time? Could we have it?
I don't remember it now, but I don't even remember it. It was so long ago. I seriously don't remember it.
Okay,
I think
you shared a few audio clips, videos with me, and that Mulan wala was fascinating indeed.
Yeah, you know, Mulan, those two songs we record. I had the good opportunity to work with a fantastic vocal director, Marianne, who is not just works for these kind of projects, but she also trains a lot of the people who work with Bollywood. She's a fantastic singer herself, and she supervised me for that song, and she did such a brilliant job of it, and I found it very easy to sing that song, and we did it exactly 2 nights before the lockdown last year, so we were like literally racing against time to finish the song, and but it turned out well. I guess it turned out okay.
Could you sing that?
In fact, the Mulan song is what I believe in life.
Yeah,
Did you know?
that's a fascinating song with a lot of deep meaning inside.
Yeah, it's like I think I'll just sing a few lines from it for you. क्या है आजादी होती है जंग क्या कहती है आंखें मेरी मिट्टी से अपनी दम से अपनी अपनों के दम से चलती है सांसें मेरी मैंने मन से अपने पूछा क्या वतन की खातिर करूं उसने पूछा क्या तू है सच्चा क्या वफा है बहादुर है तू क्या वफा है बहादुर है तू चलूं और बुझाऊं दहकती चलूं मंजिल से आगे मैं बढ़ती रहूं है जोर मुझ में या कमजोर हूं मैं लड़ती रहूं क्या बुरा है क्या है सच्चा क्या वफा क्या बातें हूँ है वतन है मन मेरा सच्चा की वफा है बहादुर हूँ मैं. So this I must have sung it all wrong. I think I have sung a few of
the modulation, the pitch, the sweetness, the intensity, the passion, everything. It was just amazing.
Thank you so much. So that's what it's fun doing these songs. It's real good fun doing these songs.
What pushes you, Sunayana, over the cliff and out of your comfort zone?
What pushes me out? I don't know. I can't think of anything. I think I'm comfortable anywhere. I don't know. Maybe it's this boarding school upbringing and this back of beyond tea garden upbringing where we were always prepared for the worst. Okay, so it's kind of ingrained in me that, you know, the worst can happen. You just have to take a deep breath, think out of a way, and plan out something. So I don't think anything really pushes me out of my comfort zone. Really, I don't know. Maybe I'm sounding very pompous, but I'm just being very honest. I mean, I'm okay with anything. I'm like, okay. I mean, when the lockdown happened, here we were stuck at home, salary slashed. You don't know when your next salary is going to come in. You don't know what's going to happen next. I mean, we are back into that same zone right now. We are once again back home in Mumbai, at least. We are not being able to go out. We're not being able to do the kind of things that we are normally used to doing. And yet I'm okay. I mean, ठीक है, देखा जाएगा. मतलब कल किसने देखा है? आज तो जी लेते हैं ना properly.
पैनिक करने से कोई फायदा भी नहीं है ना.
Exactly. I don't know, maybe I'm not saying that I have always been like this. Yes, I have lost my cool. Yes, I have been frantic. I am very lucky that I have friends around me, people like Chandre, who has always been around to kind of, show me, show me ground level, show me ground zero. Um, my family also has also been around. My son, in fact, is a huge friend. He's around. He's 19 right now, but I think we're very, very, very close friends. And he, I think, is just as mad as I am. So we get along. And we kind of, if I ever lose my cool, if I ever feel that this is something that is going to kind of heckle me, he's always around, or some friend is around to tell me that this is fine. I mean, you can do it. So I guess I've been lucky. Not everybody is lucky. Sometimes people are so alone that they don't know what to do or what step to take, and my heart goes out to them, because there have been so many situations. Each one of us goes through those kind of situations where you really don't know what to do. You really don't know what path to take. But I have been lucky that I have managed to have people around me to push me in the right direction, and so I can safely say that I'm okay with anything you throw on my face.
That's wonderful. This is how it has to be. It should be. And Chandra gave a voiceover for Ariel, you told me.
Yes, Ariel in Little Mermaid. We auditioned quite a few voices, but hers was the most. She sounded very pure in that song, and she did a fantastic job. In fact, there is a beautiful song where she was chosen to do Ariel, and my son was chosen to do Ariel's best friend, which is
Okay.
Flounder, this
Okay.
fish. Yeah, so both of them, they have a very beautiful bit of the film, and she did a fantastic job of the song. So you see, that's what I was saying, that if you can train your ears to be your teacher, you can learn a lot. I think Chandre kind of she has proved that, because she's a very different kind of a singer. You know her. She's a ghazal singer. She's into semi-classical singing. Her singing prowess, her singing genres, her singing spaces are very different from this.
That's how
And
it
yet,
came as a beautiful surprise to me when you told me that she gave voiceover for Ariel.
yeah, and then, but she listens. That's what I sometimes find a lot of young people today, because of the fact that they are very exposed to a lot of things. They're exposed to, they can easily do a lot of things. They can easily record their voices. We have a lot of auto-tune softwares that can make you a singer overnight. So I'm not trying to be derogatory here, but these are things that I think every singer should try and refrain from, at least for yourself. Because only then, if you don't put yourself a challenge, then you'll never be able to do a good job. And that's what I find in so many of these singers, like Chandre, like many of these singers who work with me. There's Keka Ghoshal, who's also a very different kind of a singer, but she has kind of moved into this kind of dubbed content very, very smoothly, with no
You
hassles
also
at
made
all.
Asrani ji sing.
Oh yes, that was such a wonderful experience.
And who could have thought of
We were
it?
doing this song for Lion King,
Which
and
song was
this
that?
was
I think this was that iconic song.
this is that song with the kids. I want to be king. What's it? I can't wait to be king. So, and usme na, there is this character called Zazu, who's the bird, and Asrani ji was dubbing for him. And then Mona said, very sweetly went and requested him, ki Asrani ji, aap gaa bhi dijiye. He freaked. He said, "What? What is wrong with you?" But then he was, what energy. These people have such amazing energy in them. He had such amazing energy. He sat with me for almost 1.5 hours, and he made sure. He said that नहीं मुझे ना ये पूरे गाने पूरे lines मुझे सही तरीके से गाना है. I don't want you to do any kind of auto tune. So I want to do a good job. And he made sure, and he was so energetic about it all, and he did a fantastic job because he's such a fantastic actor. So his acting kind of came across in his song. And if you listen to the song, it's sounding lovely. It's beautiful. And I have 2 kids out there who have done, the singer who I just spoke about, Shazneen. We have now a set of singers who started out in the 90s, who started out in the first part of 2000s, who now have kids, say around 6, 7, 8 to 12, who are now fantastic singers. So it's like literally like a
Disney Gharana.
Hereditary kind of a thing. Disney Gharana, exactly.
Going on, yeah.
So Shazneen's daughter was in it, and we had Sneha who sang for the other character. They did a brilliant job. Fantastic. They sound so exuberant. That entire song is about these 2 lion cubs running across the savannah with Zazu trying to keep up with them. And even though he's a bird, he's not being able to keep up. It's such a brilliantly portrayed song, and they did such a fantastic job. Mayur once again did a fantastic job of the lyrics. We have some fantastic lyricists who do this particular genre of work. There is Sumita Ganguly, who does a brilliant job. There is Asif, who does a brilliant. Asif Ali Beg, who's an actor who I just spoke about, who does a brilliant job. There's Surbhi, who does a fantastic job. There are these fantastic people who I get to work with, and I'm so lucky. I'm really lucky. Seriously.
Amazing. So, have you ever tried poetry?
Poetry?
I think even your prose is more beautiful than poetry could ever be.
My good friend Ashley Tellis would right now come back to me and say, no, you absolutely write rotten poetry, Sunayana. No. But that's because he's a fantastic poet. And I've known him for many years. He's an established, celebrated writer. And what I like about my friends is that they always expect the best out of me. So they are always pushing me. So if I write something, Ashley will always turn around and say that, okay, this part is fine. This sucks. This is absolutely rotten. You've kind of done a very shoddy job. And that kind of never makes me feel bad. It just puts me in the right perspective, I think.
Yeah, it should.
I think that's something that nature teaches you, that nothing is wrong. Everything is relative. A dry leaf is also beautiful.
Yeah.
It's not a dead leaf. It's a beautiful leaf that's going into the soil and making the soil fertile. So, every little thing that you do, you should take it seriously. And my father, he's around 85, 86, and he's a tea researcher, and he's still working. He's still visiting gardens. My mother says that, the only sultan that I have ever had in my life is a tea bush, because your father's always been running around there. So he kind of, without really saying much, kind of gave my sister and I this little thing that work is religion. And if you can do your work well, if you can give your heart and soul into it, you're a worshipper. You don't really need to sit and, do something which is considered to be religious. Work is religion. And for me, a rock is a religion. For me, the rock is my religion. And, earth science I think is something that should be taught to everybody. It's at least in school level, the way it is outside India. I think in India also we should be doing that. Why? Because it grounds you. When you know about the planet you live off, you live on, you and you have not much clue about it, then I think it's sad. So I think every child should understand earth sciences well in school level. Only then you can be apathetic towards your
Right.
environment.
Yeah.
This entire cry about global warming and climate change and people doing not much or not enough. I think all of that will fall into place. It will fall in line if people get more, if earth sciences becomes something like mathematics. Everybody does maths. Everybody knows math, because that's the only way you get you feel empathy for your planet. So this is something that I keep I keep telling my students. I think they're tired of me telling them this. But it's so true. It's so true.
It is so true. Sunayana, which has been your favorite track? Could you please sing that for us?
Favorite
track, soundtrack?
Okay, favorite track. There are so many favorite tracks. I think I'll just sing little bits from two of them. One song, which in 1994 I had watched Lion King. That was the cartoon form, the cartoon version, and I had watched it in a film theater. And I remember, that very first, the beginning of the film is this iconic voice of this singer from South Africa. His name is Mr. Lebo M. Who's iconic because that voice, it kind of created ripples, and it kind of made you sit up. If you watch Lion King, you'll realize. Now let's cut to
many times over and over again, and I have been spellbound each time. No matter how mature we are by age, once you start watching this kind of movies with that beautiful description and everything, and sound effects and those visuals, you feel glued to the screen.
Absolutely. I mean, I've done this African safari so many times just watching Lion King, though I've never been there. So Mr. Lebo M's voice stayed with me. It touched me. As it must have touched millions or zillions of people around the world. And he's kind of done all these, the Zulu and the African chanting that you have in that song, which is Circle of Life. What a brilliant piece of composition. It's Elton John, I think, just surpassed himself in that particular song. I mean, it's his composition. And of course, all the backing vocals and everything, all those African chants were done by this singer. And I was totally sold to both of them. And then cut to 2019, and I walk into a Sound and Vision, and Mona tells me that, Sunayana, we have the new project, and it's Lion King. It's the 2019 version, and we have to do the song. And I was like, oh my God. Because it's the same songs, they've kept the same songs. I said, oh my God, this is too good to be true. And then there was this song, which was Circle of Life, and we were auditioning, and we auditioned almost 12 people for it. And it's a very low song. It starts very low. So most of us in India, we don't have too many low-pitched vocalists. But the ones we had were either out of town or were in somewhere else. But somehow or the other, things just did not kind of fit in. And then Mona told me that, let's do something. This is something that we also have to do for these kind of projects. I sing all the songs. I do like a cue track of all the songs, so that the client can actually listen to it and get an understanding of what it'll sound like in Hindi. So I did it, and I did this song as well as a cue track. And Mona said, "Ki, TK, you keep it. Let's keep looking for singers now." We had finished every song. We had we had some of the best singers to come and do those songs. We had Armand to come and sing for what is his name? What was the name of the? Oh my God, I've grown old. I can't remember. Anyway, so Armand sang. We had Sunidhi Chauhan, who came and sang some of the most brilliant tracks. Oh my God, she's such a fantastic singer. I mean, she's so dedicated. You know, Armand is so dedicated. This is what I like about them. They will never tell you pitch my work. You know, even if they have gone quarter of a note here and there, they will do it till they get it perfectly. And they are such well pitched singers. They never make a mistake. And I learned from all these youngsters, as well as my contemporaries, as well as my seniors, whenever I work with them. Then we also had Sanjay Chaudhary, who's also a fantastic, who's Salil Chaudhary's son, who did a fantastic job of Pumbaa, you know, the character Pumbaa. And then we had Shreyas Talpade, who was dubbing for Timon, and we kind of you know, arm twisted him into singing for the characters as well, and he did a good job. He really did a good job. And then we were left with this one song, Circle of Life. It hadn't gotten over. The time for releasing the film was drawing near, and we didn't know what to do. And then we said, "Ki let's do something. Let's and see. Every time we finish the song, we send it to the studio, Disney USA, and they also have to have a say whether they like it, because these are also songs which have been sung by some iconic, you know, Hollywood singers. I won't call them Hollywood singers, but singers in that music industry, who are like, you know, who have a lot at stake. So we have to have a fantastic match and everything. So we kind of sent them my cue track, and they said they liked it. So I got to sing the song, and it was such a fantastic moment for me, because this was the song which I had loved as a child, and in the end, you know, I managed to get to sing it. So this is one song which is really close to my heart. So I'll just sing a few lines from it. जिस दिन आंखें खुले इस जहां में और देखी सूरज की रोशनी, दुनिया ये हंसी देखे जाए मगर एक उम्र भी है काफी नहीं, यही तो सच जो देखे तो मुस्कुराने की है सौ वजह, ये सूरज कहे नीले आसमां से हम तो सारे ही जुड़े इस तरह, जिंदगी डोर सी सबको बांधे चली, गम है खुशी भी प्यार भी यकीन भी, ढूंढे अपनी जगह है जुड़े इस तरह, जिंदगी डोर सी. I think it's so true that, you know, all of us are connected somehow. Yeah. Not just the humans, but also plants, animals, rocks. We're all connected.
It's an all organic whole.
Yes. So Zindagi seriously is Dorsi.
Dorsi, yeah.
Seriously Dorsi. There's another song that I used to sing as a younger person, and even now as an older person, I'm still singing it. So I'll just sing a couple of lines from that. Looking out on a morning rain, I used to feel uninspired, and when I knew I'd have to face another day, Lord, it made me feel so tired. Before the day I met you, life was so unkind. Your love was the key to my peace of mind. 'Cause you make me feel, and you make me feel. 'Cause you make me feel like a natural woman. Natural woman.
So beautiful.
So I think every woman feels that way, whether somebody is making her feel that way or not. I think when I'm cooking, when I'm looking out, looking at the rain outside, when I'm looking at a rock, I feel like a natural woman, and it's nice. It's
Beautiful. बहुत मजा आया सुनैना, पता ही नहीं चला समय का हमें, और
oh
जहां
my
से
God,
मैंने
it's
बात
been
शुरू
1.5
की
hours.
थी, या जहां से मैंने बात शुरू की थी कि उसने बात चाय से शुरू की और फिर हमने कभी खत्म ना होने दी। तो मेरी चाय तो खत्म हो चुकी है, लेकिन मैं चाहूंगी कि बातों का ये सिलसिला हमारा हमेशा चलता रहे, and we stay in touch, and this door that we have connected today must be a long one. It should be there forever.
सबको बांधे चली.
बिल्कुल, खुशी भी, दुख भी, अच्छा बुरा सब कुछ साथ में, right?
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Thank you so much, Maya, for having me on your live Facebook live. It was a pleasure to talk because I normally
Same
talk
here.
to
The
only
pleasure is
classrooms.
mutual.
And I bore my friends with talk about rocks. It's like, we go for a picnic and I'm saying, oh, look at that beautiful rock. And they say, okay, let's just have the egg sandwich first and then we'll talk about it. Okay, we'll give you time to talk about rock. So, it's like, it was a pleasure talking with you, and it was a pleasure talking about all these little things which mean a lot to me. Keep up the good work, because I have been following your work. I have been following these beautiful conversations you have with diverse people who teach me so much more.
Thank you so
So
much.
you
I
teach me
do
so
take
much.
it as
Thank you so
an
much.
honor to have hosted you here at Midnight Latte, and I think audience
Thank you so
must
much.
have
It's
enjoyed
been
this
an honor
as
to be
much
here.
as I did. And I'm not only inspired by the work that you have done by so far, I'm also inspired by the person who you are.
I'm
Thank you so
humbled,
much.
totally humbled.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Maya.